have to replace over 300 innings. That will definitely be a challenge. I'm really excited about this opportunity because I've gotten a chance to obviously speak to some of the players, you know, especially some of the ones that are here. But anytime there's change, it can be hard for 18 to 22-year-olds. It can. So I'll definitely create an environment where the guys can just show up every day and prove with their actions. So I think there's no better time to be a Kentucky Wildcat because there's a whole new opportunity for everybody. So the biggest elephant in the room right now is starting pitching.
Nick, do you have, as far as your coaching staff is concerned, do you have a time frame as to when you would like to have them in place, and do you have people in mind for those positions?
Sure, great question. So obviously not being a sitting head coach, I don't have a staff. And I actually believe in my heart that is going to be a positive because so there's a bunch of different facets that go into what makes a great coach. Number one, I'm looking for people that are iron sharpeners and they want to develop men. So as I'm going through and as I'm trying to build my staff, yes, I've talked to some people. I've had the unique opportunity of watching coaches coach, but also watching guys on the road. And sometimes you learn more about somebody, whether maybe the way they recruit and the way they handle themselves away from the field. So sometimes if head coaches maybe don't go out and recruit as much, I do want to make it known that I'll spend a lot of time recruiting as the head baseball coach. But I will, to use Mitch's terms, I will be efficient. Obviously, there's some things that have to be in place that we're dealing with the Major League Draft and everything else. But number one, I want to make sure that we get the right people. So however long that takes, we'll take. But I'm looking for developers of men.
Coach, as you mentioned, as you well know, it's a very tough league. This job is considered one of the tougher jobs in the league, if not the toughest job in the league. What do you feel like the key is to overcoming that?
Well, for me, number one, I mentioned it earlier, you got to win with people. So I've been a part of a championship here. We've done it before, and the goal is to do it again. So people may say the job's tough. I'm going to say any job in the Southeastern Conference is tough, and every job has its challenges. Right? But this is a place that I wanted to be at because I believe in my heart we can win here and we're going to win here. If I didn't believe that, I would have never come. As much as I respect Mitch and everything we got going on here, if I didn't feel like we could win, I wouldn't take that job. So, sure, every job has its challenges, but this is a place we can win at and we have won at.
Coach, how important to you was a potential facility upgrade, part one? Part two, what were your discussions like with Coach Cohen at Mississippi State about taking this job?
Well, the first part of your question, I learned a long time ago, growing up at a young age, I mentioned, you know, we didn't maybe have as much as somebody else, right? I learned a long time ago not to focus on what you don't have. You will drive yourself crazy if you do that, right? So the fact that we don't have a stadium right now, I know there's plans, but I never want our players to focus on what they don't have. I want them to count each blessing every single day. So the fact that we don't have a stadium, I think everybody knows that, but I'm not going to be the guy or the coach to focus on what we don't have. I'm going to ask our players every single day to be appreciative of everything they have, and there's a lot of resources here to win, and we've done that before. So the second part, John Cohen loves this place. He has been like a father figure to me in so many ways, and it was funny. Coach Henderson resigned, and Coach called me in right away, and we spoke about it. But he thinks the world of Mitch. He thinks the world of the people. He still has a lot of relationships. He and Nell and Jordan and Avery have a ton of relationships with the people in this community, which is an amazing community. But there was no doubt in my mind that he thought, number one, that I was ready for this, and number two, that this is a position I needed to take.
Coach mentioned John and your relationship with him. What are one or two things that you have taken away, the main things that he has passed along to you that you can apply to this job?
Sure. That's a really good question. Mitch actually asked me that same question in an interview.
See, John, you can do this job.
I don't know about that.
There are so many, but John Cohen's brain never stops. He doesn't stop. His brain is focused on making every part of the program better in every single way. And I could pay him so many compliments. I could literally stand up here and talk to you for hours about the type of human being that man is. But his brain doesn't stop, and he wants to be great in every facet of the program. And I'll take that from him.
Coach Cohen told the story this morning that you briefly lived at the UK baseball facility. Can you explain that a little more and say how long that happened?
Well, Coach did mention there might have been some state laws again, but so I moved up here with my car. Matter of fact, when I lived in Daytona Beach, I lived on my coach's couch, but I loved coaching, and I knew that I was supposed to be there. I left a job where I had full salary benefits, and I want to say for the first 6 or 7 years of my life, maybe the first 6 years, I made $36,000 total with no health benefits or insurance, because I have a passion for developing men. And yeah, when I first got up here, I came straight from the College World Series. We played for national championship, and he gave me, Coach John Cohen works really fast, and his deal was, hey, how fast can you get here? So I needed a vehicle. I actually, when I lived in Daytona, the apartment, I ended up living in an apartment, and I was doing lessons for a guy by the name of Doug. I won't mention his last name to protect him, but I was working his team out. And what I did was, eventually I learned that he owned apartment complexes, so I worked a deal out with him in Daytona that, hey, maybe instead of you paying me to work with your team, how about you give me an apartment? So I worked my rent off. Well, that year, I lost my apartment to a hurricane. Everything in it obviously was given to me. Well, FEMA came along, and I had a little like 17-inch TV. Well, I didn't know this, but when they come in, it doesn't matter if you have a big screen or a little one, you get the same amount. So I actually made money by losing this apartment. And I worked another deal out with one of our players' parents to trade in my car because I needed a vehicle. So I said, Coach, I got to get a vehicle. My car is not going to make it. So I loaded up the car. I got the car switched out, and I drove to Lexington. And I told you the story about the first time I rode up on this campus. And I didn't have a place to stay. Coach, of course, just stay with me. I said, Coach, no, I'm good. A little embarrassed to tell him I didn't have a place to stay. I eventually got a place. But I spent a long nights in the office. We didn't have a couch. He didn't have a couch in his office. I might have slept on that. But I would go to the locker room, and I spent a lot of nights there. But I eventually did get a place. So when you talk about the coaching, every coach here, Coach Mitchell, thanks for being here. It means a lot to me. You pour your heart and soul into a place, and you spend a ton of time, and it means a lot to you, and that's one of the reasons why this place means a lot to me. I spent a long nights and hours here with a lot of good people. So,
As far as the recruiting class that's already signed, have you gotten a chance to speak to any of those guys? And obviously, if they won't be drafts, some of them will have a choice to make. So what's your best sales pitch to those guys as to why they should come to Kentucky instead of signing a pro deal?
sure, great question. So, obviously, we want every one of our players and commitments and everybody we sign to have a passion of playing in big leagues, as I mentioned earlier. Well, this is a special place, and what I need to explain to them is, hey, sure, there's a time and place for the draft. Unfortunately, every kid at some point has to put a dollar figure on what they're willing to sign for and what they're not. And I just need to get in their homes and in front of their parents to let them know, number one, to start build a relationship. They need to know how much I'm going to pour, and our coaching staff will pour into them, not only as players, but as people. So sometimes guys have numbers set. You can talk them off the numbers, and sometimes you can't, but I think only time will tell with that piece.
Anything else?
I do. Can I just make one more comment before we go? I just wanted to make sure before I left that everybody knew how highly I think of Gary Henderson. I think extremely high of him, his wife Vicky, their son Alex and Ty. They are special people. I still have a relationship. Matter of fact, when our son Reeves was born, they sent us a really generous gift to help